Welcome to the System Simplified podcast, where we feature top leaders who share stories on how to successfully systemize a business. Now, let's get started with the show.
Hello, Adi Klevit here, the host of the System Simplified podcast, where I feature top founders, entrepreneurs, and thought leaders about systematizing a business. And today's episode is being brought to you by Business Success Consulting Group, where we create, document, optimize, and implement processes and procedures so businesses can grow and thrive. And today's guest is Sean Littman. Hi, Sean.
Howdy.
So, Sean, you got introduced to me by Shmuley Rothman, he's a client and has been on my podcast twice.
Oh, wow.
So we're gonna include those show notes we're gonna include those episodes, the link to the episode in the show notes, so people can listen if they would like to. But I'm very happy to have you on my podcast. We had a great conversation about CRMs, the nonprofit world, and CRMs and how they help the nonprofit world. And so you're the founder of GiveSuite.com. So that's GiveSuite, so GiveSuite.com. And you like to disrupt markets. You like to piss people off, which is interesting. And you like to make an impact, which is fantastic. I mean, you wrote that bio, so I'm reading it.
Yeah. Oh, it's funny to hear it when you're talking about it, but yeah, it's true. All true. All true.
I know. So how did you get started with this? What gave you the idea of, okay, I'm going to create GiveSuite, which is a CRM?
So first of all, I wanted to thank you for having me on your show. It's always a pleasure to be on the other side of the microphone for a change. And whenever I guest on a podcast, I always like to say that because it really is a pleasure to be on the other side of the microphone as someone who's been hosting podcasts and doing podcasts since before it was cool. This is always fun. Now, to answer your question, this is one of my favorite questions I always get asked. Why did I build a software company? And the answer is very simple, because everybody else's stuff sucked. And I kid you not, when I say this, everybody else, all the other software solutions on the market for nonprofits literally sucked. And as a marketing agency, I'll just give you a quick little background. I've been in the digital marketing world for about 10 years. I like to do things in the digital marketing world and I see things in the digital marketing world that people don't like to see or do because they're siloed into their own little holes. And when in the marketing world. And when we were working with nonprofits, we pivoted to nonprofits about 8 years ago. And using all their different tools, all the organizations we were working with, they're paying us a lot of money to make them a lot of money to grow their organizations with digital marketing. But the tools that they were using were significantly limiting. They had so many different systems and software tools that, this one did email, this one did donor management, this one did their fundraising, and nothing talked to each other. And none of these people knew how to use what they were paying for, and they were all paying a ton of money for it. And I said, this is stupid. You guys have been sold a lemon. You have no idea what you're doing. You have no idea how you're using it, and you hate your stuff too. You're complaining to us. So I said, this is dumb. We have to change something. And that's how the idea of GiveSuite came about, because one, when you're dealing with understanding your audience and understanding who your market is, and understanding the fact that if you're in the nonprofit space, most, if not all, 90% of these organizations are $1 million or less organizations, and they're technologically illiterate, and they need a system that's going to do everything for them that they need to do all in one spot, so that way they can actually use the product. And
right.
That was the idea.
Let me ask you a question on that. So what are some of and Grant, I mean, our listeners are not all from the nonprofit world, right? Some of them are.
Right.
But let's say they're looking at a CRM right now and they need to make a decision. What are some of the most important features that they need to look at in a CRM?
Well, it's not always about the features. This is where everybody gets it wrong. Everyone goes out there and tries to sell you features. And it's really about understanding software as a strategy versus software as a solution, and understanding your wants versus your needs. And, to somebody, if having, fancy AI tools and blah 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 is like the key thing to make or break it. But for most people, I think the key feature, the key tool, I don't like to use feature, I like to say tool, would be, an email marketing system that actually lets you schedule your emails, actually lets you do, like track your metrics on the email marketing, because most businesses, most organizations are doing email. Email's never going to die. And having a smart communication feature, so that way you're able to communicate with people on multiple channels, whether it's SMS, direct messaging, phone calls, whatever, and having a contact management system to be and a way to take payments, to track everything, and have the way to track your contacts, see the journeys that people are going on, to really be able to understand what your people are doing in order to maximize how you're going to communicate with them.
I think it's a great, great advice. So, we are all about systems, right? And I know the importance of having a good, when I'm talking about system, I'm talking about processes and procedures. So you got to have a process before you implement a tool, right? Before you implement a solution, because as you said, you don't want, it's not software as a solution, right?
Right.
It is something that will service you. What is your take on it? Like, how important it is to actually have a clearly defined process before you implement a technology tool?
Well, I mean, that's our entire philosophy at GiveSuite, is that we're working with you to set up the system and the processes so you can work how you want to work. So you're actually using the product that you bought versus getting sold a product that is, here you go, this is what you paid for, drop you on the door, have a nice day. Having proper systems in place, working how you want to work, is going to enable you to use the systems and the tools that you're using to maximize your productivity. And a lot of people fall short on that because, one, they don't have the right people coaching them. They don't have the backing of the companies and the support of the companies, because the companies are going to support this product, but they're going to do it, very rudimentary, okay, do this, click, 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 but not going to sit with you and show you how to work how you want to work. Because at the end of the day, if you have a proper system in place, you're not going to need support. You're not going to need the help, because you're in your workflow and you're thriving in your workflow.
That's right. That's exactly right. What are some advice that you give your clients in order to make sure that the system that you are in, GiveSuite, right? When you are implementing the CRM, it's actually, there is an acceptance and it's being utilized. Because the worst thing is you buy something and then you use 5% of its capability, right? Because then it's kind of like, oh, Sean, you promised me this, and this, but it's not really. But you go like, okay, how much are you using this particular part of the CRM? No. Are you using this? No. Are you using this? No. So there has to be integration and buy-in. So what are some advice that you can give our listeners of how to create that followed by all mentality by their staff?
I would say ask a lot of questions and go exploring. Just go in there and just explore, just play around with things. Because if you're not involved, if you're not on surface level, you can see something and it won't make any sense to you whatsoever. But until you take a deeper dive into what you're doing and start playing around, this is why I always let people, we don't do free trials, because it's a little too complicated to offer somebody a 14-day free trial. When you read my bio about disrupting markets and pissing people off, I like to do that because I like to take the traditional norms of the SaaS world and flip it on its head. We don't do.
What are some of the traditional norms that you have flipped and you're not using? You are disrupting.
Going back to your question, so in terms of playing around and getting involved in the system, I don't do typical SaaS companies will do 14-day free trial, 30-day free trial, and then they'll charge your card. I don't do that because there's way too many things going on inside GiveSuite that 14 days will not justify you playing around with it to be able to make a decision, and then your card's being charged and you're not, and then you'd be like, what the hell, and so this is why our onboarding is, and our handholding and the way we do things is very intensive, because we want to create fans. We want to build fans. We want to build people who are jumping from the rooftops screaming GiveSuite and bringing us the business. And that's how that's one of our business model is create a fan base. And so going back to your other question regarding the, systems, and that is, it's all about creating that system of how you want to work in order to maximize how you want to do it, and with the right tools and with the right guidance in the beginning and getting set up, you're going to fly.
Yeah, absolutely. My question also was, I mean, you answered it in terms of like play around, touch it, do it, be involved. But there is also the adaptability by the staff. The staff has to adopt, right? It's the adaptability, right? The staff have to adopt it. They have to get a buy-in into it. And it is sometimes hard to change systems. I mean, we work with people. It seems like almost every company that we come into, that we work with, there is some kind of a system change, because at some point they do change things.
Well, you reminded me, when you're saying the staff has to buy into it, you remind me of a conversation we had with an organization we were so happy that we didn't end up working with. But we had a couple meetings with them. They were a very large organization. And, everybody was like, oh, they're using like, their own custom built CRM because, that's what people did. And they're like, someone sold them a custom built system. I'm not one for custom, whatever. That's another conversation. And everyone was like, oh my God, this is so cool. This makes our lives so much easier. This is amazing, blah, blah, blah. Where do we sign? But then they're like, but wait, it has to pass the Ella test. Ella was the office manager. And she was the one who was like, day to day doing everything. And she's like, well, it doesn't do this, and I don't like this, and I don't like this, and like, I'm used to doing this. And actually, I have this also with people too. Sometimes they're like, well, your system, like, well, Bloomerang does this, or Salesforce does this, and my response is, well, I'm not Bloomerang, I'm not Salesforce, I'm GiveSuite. My system does this. And to get people bought in, you have to really show the value, versus like, okay, so it's not like how you're used to, but the value of what you're getting and the power that you're getting is going to outweigh your little, like, how you say it in English, like your little shticklach and tricklach, you know what I mean? Like, I'm sorry, I threw in some Hebrew when I lose my English, but like, you're the little things that you're used to. The value proposition is going to and what you're getting and how it's going to change the way you're running your organization is going to outweigh your and you can adapt.
Right.
If your mind is open to it, and everyone's like, all right, this is what we're doing, then it's either you're in or you're out.
That's true. So you have to, I mean, definitely, in order to get it adapted, to get it used, you have to train, you have to show the benefit, you have to show each person how each person in the organization has to really understand that this is going to do something for them that will make their life easier, their job easier, and being able to contribute more and more.
Oh yeah, 100%. Because at the end of the day, everyone wants their lives to be easier. Everybody in systems admin and in this type wants to streamline what they're doing and make their lives easier. Nobody wants to work harder. And this was something, like I said, finding that a lot of these platforms, these other tools out there, these donor management and fundraising tools, and that was it also, is that they're hard to use. They're very data focused. They're very report focused. And nonprofit people, even business people, small business people, are not like that. That's not their head. And you have to meet them where they're at and give them a product that's going to work with them, not against them. So that way they're not banging their head on the wall saying, what the hell did I just buy? And why can't I figure it out? And why is it costing me an arm and a leg to have an extra admin who only knows how to do this, this, and this?
Absolutely. And there is a need of having a specific CRM that aligns with for donor management for nonprofit, as opposed to using an off-the-shelf CRM that does not have those functions.
Well, yes and no. The truth be told, yes and no. Is that a lot of what I've noticed over the years of doing this is that most nonprofits, they don't need all the fancy schmancy reports and all they just need to know how much money they brought in, this quarter, what things were working the best, and how do we run it back? And when you're hit with all these reports and all these numbers and all these things that you don't understand, it's kind of like detrimental to your growth, because then you're just really like in a place where you don't know what the heck you're doing. And I find that a lot of these tools, a lot of these systems, they focus on donor management and fundraising, but they do not focus on marketing. And if you're not focused on marketing, how are you supposed to manage your donors and fundraise?
Right.
And marketing, and when going back to your question about what features, any marketing features, any marketing tools should be a key component in your choice when you're trying to understand
what are some of those marketing tools? Let's list them.
Email marketing, SMS marketing tools, automations and workflows, landing page builders, forms, surveys, quizzes, anything that has to do with lead capture and nurture. You really want to make sure that these systems do it 100%, because that's how you're going to engage, cultivate, elevate, and accelerate.
That's
and
right.
When you're not doing that, whether you're a business, so I always say nonprofit marketing, for-profit marketing, there's no difference. It's just the variables on the money. And the nonprofit is an LLC with a tax deductible status. And so if you're not actively marketing to your customers, you're not actively marketing to your donors, if you're not top of mind with anybody, and you're not differentiating yourself and standing out, then nobody cares about you. You could be the greatest business in the world, the greatest organization in the world, but if you're not continuously top of mind and marketing to these people and hitting them where they are and speaking the language, then you're wasting your time. And having a system that does that, to do the follow-up, do the automated follow-up, do the automated response, do everything there all in one, so you don't have to think about it. You're going to get more leads in, you're going to get more donations, and you're going to get more sales in, and you're going to be able to streamline your productivity.
Absolutely. Sean, if people want to hear more about, learn more about GiveSuite, where should they go?
They can check out our website, GiveSuite.com. They can also check out our YouTube channel, the GiveSuite YouTube channel. They can also check out our main YouTube channel, the Nonprofit Academy. You can also listen to my podcast, Profiting with Nonprofits. And you can just get in touch with me. You can shoot me an email.
Sounds great. Well, we'll include all of that in the show notes. So thank you very much for being a guest on this podcast. That's been a great conversation. I learned a lot. So thank you.
My pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Thanks for listening to the System Simplified podcast. We'll see you again next time, and be sure to click subscribe to get future episodes.